Welcome to Unscripted Gaming. My name is Josh, joined as ever by my wonderful esteemed colleagues, Mike and Ray.
Hello.
Hello. I'm Mike.
I'm Ray.
Gents, what's going on?
Games.
Video games.
Should they be canceled?
No.
The answer at 11.
It may surprise you.
News at 11.
The answer is yes. They, when that game is Anthem, yes, it should be canceled.
Are we just doing this right now?
No.
We should talk about some good things.
Okay. I like that.
Good things first.
I like that.
Then scary things.
Okay.
Well, you know, I haven't been here in a minute, so I got really excited. I haven't had as much of a chance to dunk on Anthem and dunk in general.
That's true.
So I just had to get that kind of out of the way, kind of get my feet back under me, and then let's go back to the good stuff, and we'll get back to it. I'll calm down.
Okay. No, it's perfectly fine. It's understandable to want to dunk on Anthem this week.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened around Anthem, but we'll come.
Oh yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Mm-hmm. Should we talk about what games
next
we're
time? Yeah, I can actually go. I've played some video games.
Mm-hmm.
Two in particular. One, it was a quick little 45-minute indie game I played on my phone called Florence. It's a little visual novel. It is incredible. I don't want to give too much away, but I will say very few games have made me nearly emotional and or a bit misty-eyed. This one did. If you've ever experienced any sort of relationship in your adult life, this game will probably make you feel something at the very least. I think it was like a couple bucks on Google Play or whatever the fuck the Apple thing is, App Store. God, but yeah, it was a fun little thing. And then on some travels, I was playing some more Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I think I last mentioned it about a year ago on this very podcast.
You did. I'm actually kind of shocked.
Yeah, I was playing it on an airplane, and we did some travel, and I played a couple hours here. Yeah, I really enjoyed that game. I just the kind of problem as an adult who doesn't have a commute is I very rarely am pulling out my DS to play. But I really enjoyed that game. I kind of like the way that the progression of that story happens. The way they do some really interesting mechanical changes with the Link that can turn 2D and move along flat surfaces that kind of open up some new areas and open up some mobility. The way that you are getting different items, the ability with the witch to move around the save spots that you have to kind of teleport around the world. Just little things that have made what you remember of A Link to the Past on this familiar map just a little bit more modern. And I really enjoyed that, and I'm going to try and make an effort to actually play it a little more frequently. Maybe go sit outside and play my DS and actually get through the game, and not go another year before I sit on this podcast again and say, hey guys, I put another 2 hours into it. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm
working on it.
Yeah, I'll get there eventually.
I'm working on it.
But other than that, for me, not a ton. As my absence has suggested, I've been pretty busy with the second baby Metroid and other things, so I have not done as much gaming. So that's about it for me right now.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, that is understandable, but I also played Florence. I played it last year and also really enjoyed it. So I would double Josh's recommendation. It's on phones, and it makes really good use of phone for as the platform, which is rare.
Here's the thing: if you play it on Google, if you buy it and you're done with it, you are probably still within the return window if you want to be a shady prick about it, and actually you could play it for free. But by the end, you won't want to because it's that good. You'd be like, no, actually, these guys need some money because that was an incredible little experience.
It's really cool. It was up there with Donut County, with my favorite mobile games of last year. So
I do love Donut County.
Donut County is so good. It's great. Ray, what have you been playing lately?
So check this.
Well, actually, I know what you've been playing lately because you've been playing pretty much it's the only thing you've been playing.
No, so I take breaks from Apex Legends, believe it or not. I can't help it. I love this game. I liked the concept of PUBG, and I put 200 hours into PUBG over the course of 2 years, but Apex Legends is like, what if PUBG did everything right? And I mean everything from top to bottom. And it's so great. It's so lovely. I've won a lot more games. I'm now getting wins on the regular, and that feels really good.
Ray, can I just say though, the time between rounds is not considered a break from Apex. Just so we're all clear.
It is.
Yeah. So, loading screens do not count as breaks.
So here's some proof. I beat Kingdom Hearts 3 just to see what the ending of that 18-year trek was.
God.
And that was one of the second most disappointing video game endings I think I've ever encountered. Like it's reductive of me to say it's not worth the wait. I think it's more accurate to say that this game isn't even a good sequel. Okay, this isn't a spoiler.
It was the wait you deserved.
It's the wait the series deserved. Yeah, at this point. Like, when I finished it, I honestly did have a moment thinking to myself, saying, I don't know what I expected. Like, it wasn't this, but I should have expected better. But knowing where we've been going for the past almost 2 decades, no, I shouldn't have.
Like, I think all of the various non-canon, canon, non-canon, canon, remake, remastered, 25,000 over 84/5 to the second squared over the last 2 decades since Kingdom Hearts 2 were released really should have been an indication to really everybody that this series jumped the shark a long time ago, and that a third numbered series release and the actual, like, quote unquote sequel finale was just like, much like Duke Nukem Forever, never going to live up to what it could have been, what the potential was, because they lost the plot a long time ago, and they had no idea what to do with this franchise or this game anymore in a modern setting, because they kind of missed the window.
To Josh's point, which is absolutely true, there's so many sequels. Did you know that besides Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, like literally 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, every other Kingdom Hearts game that has ever come out originally came out on a completely different platform than its predecessor? And that is justifiably very frustrating.
That's
well, not
hilarious.
only that, I don't.
It's
like,
true though. It's true.
Let's say you're a console fanboy, and you stuck diehard to PlayStation consoles. You got the PlayStation 1, the 2, the PSP, the PSP Go, the Vita, the PS4, the PS4 Pro. Some of those canon games, if I'm not mistaken, came out on Nintendo platforms.
Yes, there were. Okay,
Nintendo
Decoded is not.
platforms.
Decoded is semi-canon in my opinion. You don't have to play it, but there were 2 on the DS and 1 on the 3DS, and they are part of the main canon, so required playing. Those games being 3, 5, 6 Days Over 2, and what was the 3DS one? Oh yeah, Dream Drop Distance. Dream Drop Distance is a direct. No, don't get me started on the names. That's a whole nother podcast, okay? Birth by Sleep, Union Cross. We're not getting into the naming conventions of Kingdom Hearts. We'll be here all day.
we just do not have the.
We don't have the time.
We don't have the days over sleep to do this.
You are a monster. Thank you, Mike. Here are some key point issues that are non-spoiler for Kingdom Hearts 3 so I can clarify why I'm saying it's disappointing. You know, the lovely thing about Kingdom Hearts is it's a union between Final Fantasy and Disney. Well, in Kingdom Hearts 3 there are no Final Fantasy characters. None. Not a single one, unless you count the Moogle, which is a shop. But he doesn't move or do anything besides sell you items.
Are there any chocobos?
No. There is no Cloud. There's no Final Fantasy 15, Noctis. There's no 14. There's no 7. There's no nothing. None. Disney had.
You mean I can't see a Keyblade and a Gunblade just dueling it out?
You could have in the other games, but not this one. At all. And that hurt. That kind of hurts a little. I'm not gonna lie. That one stung. It stings how much Disney had control over this game than others. This isn't a spoiler, but if you're a fan of what's the name of that song with the what's the name of that movie with the song "Let It Go" in it? Frozen.
Frozen.
If you're a fan of Frozen, great. They do a complete in-engine redo of that entire song in the game for no reason. It's just there.
Where can I buy this game?
I need to own this game. Like the whole world Tangled, that's just kind of thrown in there. It doesn't add anything to the game. It's just, again, just there. Plus you have, and I explained this to Josh and Mike earlier, but now I'll tell it to the podcast land. One of your most powerful attacks that you could do at random is you call up a Disney World park attraction ride that Sora, Donald, and Goofy hop on, and they go, yeah, we're fighting the Heartless or Nobodies, and you're just on this, like, we'll take the carousel, for example. And that is so... That takes you out of the game when you're fighting the final boss and you hop onto the pirate ship ride, and that's doing a ton of damage to the final boss, and you're like, this is some mood whiplash I'm experiencing here. What am I supposed to feel? But, okay.
What I want to know.
Okay.
And I don't know that we'll ever get this level of, you know, the post-mortem write-up, you know, basically the Kingdom Hearts tell-all someday.
Sure.
Just because I don't think that is nearly the Japanese culture, especially like in corporate Japan, as it is, like, say, here, in other countries. But I would just love to know, like, what the hell happened.
Well, this is actually
Kingdom Hearts.
This is public. It's game director Tetsuya Nomura bit off more than he can chew. At one point in 2013, he was both the game director, which is the head honcho, for Final Fantasy 15, Kingdom Hearts 3, and the Final Fantasy remake. These are not small games.
No, but like
that seems like a bad idea.
Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005.
Yes.
Like, they were talking about Kingdom Hearts 3 in the E3s around, like, when I was
the PS3 launch.
In the 2000, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, like before he was like there was so much time between now and then. Like, how many times did Kingdom Hearts 3 start and end development? How much did they start working on something and then that project morph into Birth by Sleep or 3600 over 82 fifths? You know, like, what parts of Kingdom Hearts 3, the original, got torn up and put into other games, and like that they ended up where they had to be for this one because of all the stuff that they had to add on top of what was originally in the first two games. You know, it'd just be very interesting to hear about what happened. And I get that he bit off more than he can chew, but like, games are bigger than one person. I know that, again, Japanese gaming development culture is probably a little bit differently with the way that the cult personalities around certain people might take more responsibility on things, but like, there had to be more going on than just he took on too many projects.
Can I remind you, at that point, I want to bring up and remind you, Final Fantasy Versus 13 was announced in 2008. Tetsuya Nomura was the head game director, and the game didn't come out until 2016, and Square Enix had to kick him off the project to make sure it came out, and it's not a finished game. So I think it really does come down to the man never saw a timetable that he liked.
Yeah, that's also fair. You know, I kind of remember back to the whole, here's the whole Final Fantasy 13 like universe,
the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. Oh my gosh.
Nothing came out the way that it was supposed to be.
I have no idea what that means.
Real quick,
And
anecdote,
Neither does
never
he.
want to find out.
Fabulous. Oh God, I remember being
Do
so
not
hyped
tell
for
me.
Final Fantasy 13, getting it, playing it for 15, 20 hours, and just hating it.
It's not a good game.
I was like, dude, this is terrible. And I never finished it, and I literally took it back to GameStop and I sold it back because I was like, this game is trash. And that was just coming off of playing Final Fantasy 12, which I absolutely loved.
Peak!
Great game.
Peak!
And then played Final Fantasy 13. I'm like, this is all I'm doing is listening to these overly loud footsteps down the straight and narrow corridor between random encounters, and that's it.
And lightning never with a personality.
God, yeah, that was a bad game. So, yeah, maybe it literally was the fact that he just took on too much and everything fell to crap.
Yeah, he's actually really so there are some articles that maybe I could post in here, like Square really jumped down his throat after he was removed off the Final Fantasy 15 project and said, you are finishing Kingdom Hearts 3, we're stopping everything, you can't work on the Final Fantasy 7 remake until this game is shipped. We don't know what you have to do that, but like make that happen. And the game really does show, unfortunately, that he leaned a lot more heavily on Disney than on any of the even Final Fantasy properties that he worked on. And it's not great. The ending's not great. I beat the game.
I wonder if that's his, if also that was his little kind of middle finger to Square and saying, okay, you guys are going to take away my other pet project and force me to do this. I'm going to focus solely on the Disney aspect. Anything Square related can take 2 of these,
Josh
which
is,
I'm throwing up middle fingers right now.
Yeah.
With water at dinner time and go to bed.
That's all I got to say about that. Very, very disappointing game. I'm saddened that, you know, I've been playing the game since I was in middle school. Now as a good sized adult, just seeing the series come to an end, it's like, man, that's just life, isn't it? You go in all wide eyed and then it just lets you down. Then I downloaded and I've been playing recently some Ace Combat 7, and I thought Ace Combat storylines, I thought I hit the peak of how stupid an Ace Combat storyline can get. Nope, that wasn't even the base hill. There's a portion of the game where, no, you know what? It's spoiler territory. I can't discuss it. The best thing I could say is prisoners shouldn't fly jets. That's
What a hot take.
Maybe prisoners should fly jets.
maybe this game. No, the storyline is bad. Like, I've checked out from it. I'm like, oh, so it starts off.
But this sounds like good bad.
It's really
good bad or bad?
It's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see how anime this gets bad. Because the very first mission starts talking about the space elevator. I'm like, oh man, here we go! How long before I'm launching 80 missiles from my Tomcat? That.
Okay.
Oh, it gets interesting. It's kind of dope. It looks beautiful. If you are an Ace Combat fan, they added a new maneuver that's been missing from the series this whole time that I didn't know I needed. Josh, you're an Ace Combat fan. I know we talked a little bit about the Belkin War. You know,
I love Ace Combat.
you know when you get into a dogfight and it becomes basically kind of a who can outturn who kind of like style fight?
Oh yeah, that's basically 90% of the dogfighting.
So they added a new maneuver that just takes away the thinking out of that, called the high G turn. You depress both the acceleration and the deceleration, so the throttle and the dethrottle triggers, and your plane just shifts 180 degrees in the air. It costs you like 75% speed, but who cares? You just turned all the way around, and it's no longer a turn fight.
So basically they did over-exaggerated thrust vectoring and said, we're going to turn like this.
Yeah, every plane can just do that now, regardless if historically the plane can do.
Y'all, I'm into this.
I am too. It's so
More games need jet drifting.
That's basically what it is. It's so dumb, but I love it because it's like, I needed this. I don't care how unrealistic this is. My Tomcat has 80 missiles under the bay. Of course, it's unrealistic. Oh,
Need for Speed
That's so
Tomcat
ready.
Drift.
this is
Why would you need that?
This isn't a spoiler because it's in the marketing material, but there is a portion where in the game your F-15 Strike Eagle has a laser cannon mounted beneath the base. I'm loving this game is what I'm trying to say. It's so anime, I love it. Alright, that's it. That's what I've been playing.
That's incredible.
Matt.
Okay.
Not Matt. Mike. I'm so sorry.
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of really anime-esque games, I finished up Devil May Cry 5.
How long did that take you to beat, by the way, if I can ask?
Not too long. I mean, I was just kind of going through on the human difficulty, and I'll probably round. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's definitely like replayable to like try and get the better scores. Like it's the core gameplay is just like good old-fashioned Devil May Cry, and it's really solid for that. And I'm gonna go through probably on like the harder difficulties.
Okay.
But it did. The initial playthrough was like pretty standard length, I think. Mm-hmm. So that was I have talked about it before. That was pretty great, and I really enjoyed that. Fans of the series would love.
I can't wait to try it.
I can't remember if I mentioned it last time, but I played some Baba Is You. I've been playing some Baba Is You.
No, Baba is Wall.
Baba can be Wall. But it's a fiendish puzzle game where you're like a sheep named Baba, and you are it's hard to describe because like you basically like are trying to achieve the win condition, and it changes from each level to level. Mm-hmm. But like so like your character is like it always kind of defaults to Baba Is You, but that equation, like Baba is and you are like separate little things on the map that you can like move and replace and like shift around, and you sometimes will have to like change the equations to like solve the level. And it's like I might try to like do some video with it or something, because it's a really hard game to kind of like describe.
I listened to you and Matt both talking about it, and also the guys on GiantBomb.com talking about it, and it's kind of hard to conceptualize without visualizing. And as somebody who doesn't typically like to like do a lot of preview looking, this is definitely one of those things I would still recommend for anybody to go kind of just take a look at, because you'll know instantly everything that Mike says will make sense, but then you'll also pretty much know pretty early on if this game is for you or not.
Yeah, and it's like it's some of the it's a really great puzzle game fluctuation of, oh no, I'm so stupid, I'll never figure this out, oh no, and then when you solve it, and you feel like super smart, because the game does a good job of like, it feels like that there's a bunch of different ways that you could solve a lot of levels. It kind of with how like it forces you to really think like non-linearly, and you're just kind of like constantly trying to think outside of boxes, and it is very cool. So if you like puzzle games, I would highly recommend it. Baba Is You.
I have an important question.
Yes.
Is it on Switch?
Yes.
I'm in.
It is. That's where I was playing it. Yeah, you should. I think you'd like it.
Do you know are there other platforms it's on besides?
I know it's on Steam. I don't believe it's on anything else at the moment. Let me actually double check here. But while I'm looking that up, let's see here. Yeah, it's on Steam. Yeah, Steam and Switch for now. I think it'll probably come to everything else eventually, but definitely a great Switch game. And I have also been playing, I guess the main kind of game I wanted to talk about lately. I've been playing some Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yes, I'll play it next year.
It is the real quick next year you got to get to it sooner than that, my guy.
I've made my stance. I'm sticking with it.
Fine. Okay. Well, real quick, it's the team behind it is From Software, makers of great games like Dark Souls, like Bloodborne, and a bunch of other games in their history that are also good.
Armored Core.
Armored Core. Yes.
Preach.
And this game is, I'm about 5 hours in. I'm not super far in. But this game is fiendish.
Yeah.
And it's, because if you look at it, you're like, oh, this looks like a Dark Souls game. But very quickly, I have learned that the things I do and would use to succeed in Dark Souls and Bloodborne just do not work in this game. Because, like, in Dark Souls, I would build to, like, dodge enemy attacks and, like, outmaneuver bosses, and that's generally how I would win. But in Sekiro, because it's like a samurai kind of Imperial Japan type setting, so you're like fighting samurai and like other shinobi and other things that I don't want to spoil.
I'm excited to play this game. I'll be honest.
And if you like try to play it like Dark Souls, you will get crushed.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why I've had such difficulty, starting off with this game, is because it is tough. But it's just like I feel like I have to unlearn like all of my like Dark Souls cheesing, and just how I would approach like bosses and fights in Dark Souls, to learn how to play Sekiro. Because, but now, like the other day, I had finally gotten past, like, there was this mini boss, like not even just like a regular, like a real big scary boss, but just like a mini boss who's like, was just kicking my butt. And then when it finally clicked for me and I figured out like how to do because he had like a big spear and you're just like a guy with like a samurai sword, and he'll like do a big wind up and like charge at you to spear it. But if you can do a special counter where you like dodge into his attack and you like step on the spear and then you can like wail on him and do a bunch of poise damage, like when it clicks, it feels amazing. You just feel like it's like, you can't even touch me. I am parrying every single one of your attacks. I have downloaded you. You are done. And then you just do like some awesome badass finisher. Like,
can I ask you some questions about that?
Yes, absolutely.
So, the only Soulsborne game I've beaten has been Bloodborne, which, holds a special place in my heart now. Would you say the parry system is similar to that? There's a specific button you press at a certain time?
Yeah, it's similar, but parrying is so much more essential to the core of the game. Like, I almost don't even like want to say it is technically like a defensive move, but like there's no stamina. Like it's just like, it's almost like your block button is just like another attack button, and it's kind of how you have to think about it.
Yeah,
because you're like, enemies have like their vitality health, but then they also have like their combat poise health, and like if you slash them, you'll lower their vitality, and do poise damage. But if you like parry and block their attacks, like they'll get poise damage too. And if they kind of hit the limit on their poise, it opens them up to like a mega super strong critical attack. And so that's kind of how like the it's like the parrying is important in Bloodborne, but it's like, it's so like it's something you can do in Bloodborne that is recommended, but like it's not. Basically, you can beat Bloodborne without ever parrying anybody. You cannot beat Sekiro without it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like it's
because there's a lot of bosses in Bloodborne I just didn't bother with parrying because the timing window was for some of them extremely strict. And then, you know, you get to the groove of Bloodborne where you're just like, all right, I got 30 frames. Hit the R button or whatever button you have it mapped to.
Yeah, like that's the thing is like the dodge is definitely doesn't have like the iframes of the Bloodborne dodge, so it's like less magical. And it's
Okay,
just
all right,
it's kind of it's honestly like the Soulsborne, like the Dark Souls Bloodborne, like kind of exam I've been needing for a long time because I never really parried a lot. I was much more like an evasive Dark Souls and Bloodborne player.
Yeah.
And this feels like, no, Mike, if you want to play and enjoy this game, you're gonna learn how to parry. And I'm just like, okay. I guess just some other things I like about it, like I'm still so early, but it kind of has like one of my like, it's just a game that's like full of enemies that fight like the player character. Like I like fighting big monsters in Dark Souls and stuff, but there's something really unique about fighting bosses and like characters who are like your same size, and but it just feels like it's a pure like skill and speed matchup.
Yeah.
Like, and when you're like clashing blades like back and forth and like the music's going, and you're like doing like crazy like power things with your arm, like it has like a really like cool unique feel of like it's super cool. Like I can't play it. I really need to kind of sit down and kind of get to learn it more. But I just from the little bit I played, I'm super stoked to play more of it because I think it's. I'm sure I'll be playing it throughout the year because it'll probably take me a long time because it's hard. But so far I think it's super cool.
I take it block cheesing isn't in this game.
You can't. I mean, if you hold down the block button, you'll block every attack.
Oh, okay.
Except for but I mean, you'll take poise damage, and then a lot of bosses and enemies have like big like telegraphed unblockable moves.
Yeah, of course.
Or like that'll go through your regular blocks. You either have to parry, dodge, or like do the special counter thing, and yeah, it's really cool. And I guess just real quick, before we kind of talk about the big news story we want to look at, there's this game that, because it is very difficult, it spawned a bit of something that's kind of comes up in games every now and then about discussion about like difficulty.
Oh, we're segueing into this. Here we go.
In games, like I want to talk more about the Anthem stuff.
Okay.
But I wanted to like briefly touch on this too, because a lot of the discourse is like, I like the things of Sekiro, but like it's really hard, and I kind of wish. And there, some people were like, I kind of wish that I could see more of this game, or like have some options to do something to make it easier for me to get through and see all the cool stuff in this game, which spawned the never-ending gatekeeping discourse. And I just kind of wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that whole. It's such like a big picture thing, but like, what are your general thoughts on like the difficulty of a game? Like, it's
so. I feel like this is like a minefield of a conversation, because the moment you show any derision to like, I'm going to just be up in front. I'm in the camp where I buy From Software games. I'm a huge fan of the Armored Core series. Oh my gosh, do I love Armored Core. Someone got me hooked up to Bloodborne. I played a little bit of Dark Souls, and maybe I should just do a stream or upload some content of me playing it, because I've never, to my shame, beaten a Dark Souls game, but they are right up my alley. I've beaten Cuphead, just to throw that out there. I don't have an issue with video game difficulty, but I have the, I hate using this term, I have the privilege of not having an issue with video game difficulty. And I understand, let me explain what that means a little bit. I have no motor sense issues, I have no special skills, I have no heightened eyesight. I'm wearing glasses for F's sake. My vision is like 400 over 20. It's kind of bad. It's kind of really bad. Like, my contacts are 5-1. I don't know. The point I'm saying is that I am just a normal human being like everyone else. But if I had a disability that prevented me from the button timing or the trigger sensitivity that certain games require, in my personal view, I would just move on from those games. And there is the... I'm sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think definitely, and like in my kind of thoughts on this, is like you really have to kind of separate like the difficulty of a game from like the accessibility options, because like there's a difference between a game having like an easy, a normal, and a hard mode versus like not having like versus the game being hard because like the colorblind mode is bad. Or you can't rebind any of the buttons if you don't have.
And I disagree.
Have traditional motor control.
What's up, man?
Well, I think that from what I've heard, and I am no big fan of the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro type games. They just, I've never been one for big timing based, parry based, like all that stuff that you really need for those kinds of games. It's just not really ever clicked for me. But from what I understand, at least in like Bloodborne and Dark Souls, like the character options and the different ways you can create a character allow for a wider range of play styles. So yeah, maybe you don't have the second perfect maneuverability for a dodge build, but if you can make a tanky character and you still have enough motor ability to at least do a fraction of that, you'll be fine. But in Sekiro, it's pretty dependent on those split-second decisions and timings, because there are much fewer ways to build that character. And in that sense, I say that having some difficulty sliders might be an accessibility thing, just because you might need the timing to be a little bit shorter. You might need a little bit longer, so that somebody who maybe does have delayed reaction times or does struggle, I mean, God, think about the Super Bowl. We just saw these ads for the Xbox controller that is really customizable for...
Yeah, the adaptive controller.
Yeah, the adaptive controller. I forgot what it was called. And I also am of the opinion that the whole... Yeah, I get it, Get Good is a meme and whatnot, but, like, the whole concept that, like, some games just have to be harder is kind of crap.
Now, hold on. I will defend that with this.
Can I finish?
Please.
Because I get that there is some skill that is integral to gaming and certain styles of gameplay, like the way that Dark Souls is designed, is dependent on being able to do a certain set number of things. But at another time, I'm hearing people who are avid Dark Souls fans who are relatively competent at those games that still are constantly banging their head against the wall, because sometimes the game is just so obnoxiously obtuse that I don't know. I'm sure that in some ways, like Mike's saying, like when you do finally figure it out and it clicks for you and you're getting it, you feel really accomplished. But other times it's like, it just feels like this game is gatekeeping me from moving on for literally no reason other than it's saying it needs to be hard for you to succeed, and you want to get that feeling, and it's keeping you from seeing that content that is further in the game if you're invested in the story, if you're invested in the world. And I personally don't think that anything you get anything less if you feel accomplishment from completing a game on quote-unquote easy mode, and if you complete a game and you feel accomplishment from playing it on, legendary or whatever. Like, if you feel accomplishment playing a game at any difficulty, then you felt accomplishment playing that game, period.
I'll disagree with that. Absolutely, I'll disagree with that. So.
But if you physically can't play, if you can't play Halo on Legendary because you're constantly getting wrecked because you don't have the reaction time, but you can get through it on normal mode and you feel really good because you got to see the game, you got to accomplish it, you got to play it at your pace and at your level. You're still going to feel good about it. I don't feel any less because I play games at an average person's level because I don't have the time to devote to playing on the heroic difficulties as much as I used to. I don't feel any less accomplished when I finish a game, or I don't feel like any less of a gamer because of it.
No, I get you. Like, there's many a times, like the last Halo game, Halo 5 Guardians, I think it was, I couldn't give a damn, so I just plopped that thing to the easiest mode possible, and it took me like 4 hours to go through the story, because I just wanted to see what it was about. But, to your point of would I have felt better playing the game? No, because Halo 5 is not that great of a game. Like, I feel this conversation, and this is what I was going to bring up, only really pops up for these grand marquee games that get a lot of attention, that are from specific developers, and those developers have been, in this case and in other cases, very fair and open about how... Well, if you look at From Software's listing of... I have their list of games up right here. They make difficult games. They make them in one setting, too. That setting, many people find to be difficult, but the studio head has said on many interviews that he makes them, he and his team, of course, make them difficult but fair. They want the game to be accomplishable. They wish that there was a way to make the game more accessible. They're not sure of what that is yet. I can post it was a 2013 interview that he gave about Dark Souls 3, when someone addressed him like, what if there was an easy mode? So I wish there was a way to make the game more accessible, but keep the difficulty, because the game is built around that difficulty. Like, the difficulty is built into the blood of the game. But
like, that's a good point, because I think because like for me, like I like with some of the more recent Fire Emblem games, I just play those on casual.
Absolutely.
Just because like the challenge of like the permadeath of losing a character in the middle of a fight, like that just isn't really like a fun challenge to me. And like and it doesn't, I guess like that doesn't feel like a core. I mean, there's like so many different things like to unpack here, because that permadeath in Fire Emblem, like a tactics game, doesn't really feel like a huge part of it's not a huge reason why I come to that game.
It's not even fair, because you don't know how to set up, you don't know what characters to bring. You're just like, all right, here we go, and then they die.
Like,
so Fire Emblem's not fair.
It lets me play in like a more like loosey-goosey freeform way that's more fun for me, which is what I like. And it's like, I wish, like, I definitely like kind of understand Miyazaki's point about like the difficulty of translating, of trying to kind of figure out what something like that would look like in the Dark Souls and like Sekiro, just because like Josh was kind of saying, in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you can kind of do character builds and grind to kind of get more experience and do more damage. I think Sekiro is kind of a really interesting flashpoint for this stuff, because there are a couple of like skills you can get that are kind of helpful, but it really just all boils down to just you have to learn the moves, and you have to learn the parries, and it's kind of just how like railroaded and focused it is on just like learn to fight. Like that's it. Like it's fair, but it's tough, and it's like, but like it's cool. It's cool that it's.
Who's it gonna hurt if somebody wants to say, "Hey, maybe it takes me 4 hits to die instead of 2"?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is like, I think at the end of the day, is like a game having an easy mode.
That's up to the creator. I
think it's a stretch to say it like would like it would be for like if Sekiro had an easy mode. I think it would be really a stretch to say that it like made the entire game on any of the other difficulties worse that existed. Like that's kind of like I really don't want to drag like from here. I think I really kind of understand where they're coming from, and that they like I think the kind of learning of the combat channel like is kind of the core of that game, and if like if you make that combat more simplified, you really kind of lose the spirit of what makes that game unique and interesting and fun.
Yeah.
But I do definitely think, like Josh says, like I think that there's some sort of, I think there's something that they can find, that would be cool if that, just to like, you know, I kind of wish more games had like a, like, you know how in like some Mario games, like if you die a couple times on a level, you get like the special suit that makes you move faster. And
I'm gonna be that guy. Whenever that suit pops up, I just feel insulted. I'm just that guy.
Oh yeah, no.
It's like, oh no, you didn't.
It hurts.
No, you
It's just
didn't.
Like, oh, there's somebody need a will helping suit.
That's
Oh,
what it
just
feels
somebody
like,
need
man. It's like, do you want
But,
the
like,
invincibility suit, little buddy? Like, get that thing
yeah,
away
it's
from me!
that. But sometimes, like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I want to be done and keep moving on through the game. So I
but
kinda,
it's like, yeah, that's
I wish
you
I
don't
wish
like that,
more.
But some people want that, or some people need that.
Sure, in like a
Yeah.
Mario game, I get it. I absolutely. But again, and I'm not trying to like lord over them like they could do no wrong. Because yeah, looking at FromSoft's list, they've made some bad games. I'm looking at you, Cookies and Cream on the PS2. I see you. No, don't give me that face.
I thought you were about to say that about Dark Souls 2. I'm like, well, okay, Dark Souls 2 is kind of the B child of the whole series, but let's not get carried away.
All right. I'll go ahead and drag.
Whoa.
I'll drag one of my favorite series, Armored Core 9breaker. You have literally the coolest name in the series. Worst game in the series.
That is a very cool name.
9breaker. And it's got a good story of why it's called 9breaker.
Why was 6 afraid of 7?
Stop it. You need to stop. Don't.
7, 8, 9breaker.
Oh, but so the game I was going to mention before, no one talks about how difficult a game like DCS F14 is, that released in the same month, and that's a literal combat flight sim, and it makes no apologies for how difficult it is. One of my friends was telling me that he didn't do his pre-flight check correctly, so while he was on a sortie, his character ran out of oxygen and he passed out.
That's incredible. That's really fun.
And that game, you actually benefit, like, actual fighter pilots play this game. This game benefits from you downloading the F-14 Tomcat manual and understanding how to play this game. If you're not playing with a HOTAS, no one is inviting you to their Discord server. That's the end of it. It's like difficult games like that are allowed to exist. No one talks about that, how difficult that game is.
Yeah, well, I forgot to mention that with my copy of Sekiro. I have to, like, before I play, I have to go into my backyard and, like, literally, like, fold over this katana like 500 times to get the blade balance just right.
On a Wednesday!
Before I log in.
That's in the instruction manual! It's right there! But
Sarah's like, what are you forging in the back of? Sarah, I'm downloading the Sekiro patch.
But this conversation, discourse as people will call it, and it is. And it's a fair discourse to people that actually have legitimate disabilities. I want to say I get it, but I don't. I can't empathize, but I do sympathize with where they're coming from. I really, truly do. I can't imagine what that's like.
I think definitely the key thing here is to separate accessibility from difficulty, because fun difficulty is like the challenge that Sekiro presents. Not fun difficulty is when Nintendo doesn't let you rebind keys, or again, the colorblind mode is so bad that you can't really tell what's happening. So, I would love to, in the interest of time.
Real quick, time out. Nintendo, key binding is a good thing.
What games are you guys talking about where there's no
happen.
key binding?
Like Nintendo's like notoriously bad about it in all of their games.
I can't think of a Nintendo game that I can rebind keys in. Like, I can't say like, hey, in what? Wow, I'm blanking on the most recent
Mario Odyssey?
Zelda game. Like, no, like I can't just change what button I want to do X, Y, and Z.
Oh, you're talking about the new Zelda game that came out recently?
Or hey, in Metroid,
Wild?
in Samus Returns, that game would be much better if I could move with the D-pad and do all the map stuff with the control stick, but they won't let me do that either.
Okay, so like I will never not argue for full controller rebind in every game. Because the games that don't have it and you like need it, oh, it hurts. Oh yeah, so 1000% with you guys there.
But yeah, like I said, in the interest of time, we should move on to our final story here because it's juicy.
Okay.
But yeah, I would love to hear people's, if anyone wants to submit comments or anything on their thoughts of the difficulty discourse. We'd love to, I thought it was an interesting discussion, so I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it. But now that our we've had our veggies and potatoes, we get to jump into the red meat here, fellas.
Here we go.
We got some juicy drama.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I know I've been thirsting for weeks for a good. As all of you know, I'm a thirsty individual.
Mike's
Thirsty
thirst is unquenchable, and he has been begging, just begging for any sort of scuttlebutt around Anthem.
I have been dying for, because like I played, Ray and I, we talked about, we played the demo. We're like, this game feels super hot and not good. And super hot as in like hot out of the oven and barely making it to launch day.
Yeah. Oh man, remember the flight controls at the?
Then the game came out, and everyone's like, "Wow, this game is super hot and okay," and they're like, "Everything's fine." And it reeked of a game that had allegedly been in production since like 2011. It reeked of some stuff went on.
Yeah.
On behind the scenes.
And then EA's like, yo, what if we took this okay game and follow us on this one? What if we made it worse? Y'all like that idea? Cool. And we're gonna do it.
My boy Jason Schreier,
your boy now,
a reporter with Kotaku, he came in with the goods. And we're going to try to talk about this piece, but I really don't think we'll be able to do it justice, just because there are just so many.
Because there are 19 employees?
19 employees.
That he interviewed in some fashion or another that had touched the game, and yeah, I have not yet finished reading the article.
It's beefy.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
And boy,
yeah, it is. Like I think I want to go through and kind of pick out some of the really interesting things, or some of the anecdotes that stood out, and we have to talk about BioWare's reply too.
That needs to be brought up.
But just I really implore anybody listening to this to go and read this whole thing, because it's a great piece, but it's just. The scale of all the things going on here is just crazy. Like, I guess the goodest place to start as any is just like the opening here is just, that literally like days before that they announced the game, they had to change the name of the game because of a copyright, and then they're like, I guess we have to call it Anthem now, and
which the people on the team for a long time until fairly recently, I think, had no idea how Anthem related to anything in the game until they basically shoehorned in some reasoning saying that Anthem is this overarching yada yada in the game world. Like they literally just, because they couldn't secure the rights to the name they originally wanted, had to shoehorn in a reasoning for their secondary name.
Oh, guys, I found it in the article. June 2017, they changed the name from Beyond to Anthem. That is a year and a half before release. They changed the name and the story of the game. A game that had spent 9 years in the oven. Was it 6 years? I think it was 6 years in the oven. Something like that.
Yeah, and like...
Think about that.
and there are so many things across this that are just like, I feel like it can kind of be broken down into categories of like engine problem and like studio problem. So like as a big studio problem, I kind of want to just read this quote here, like, quote, "Perhaps most alarming, it's a story about a studio in crisis. Dozens of developers, many of them decade-long veterans, have left BioWare over the past 2 years. Some who have worked at BioWare's longest-running office in Edmonton talk about depression and anxiety. Many say they or their coworkers had to take, quote, stress leave, a doctor-mandated period of weeks or even months of vacation for their mental health. One former BioWare developer told me that they would frequently find a private room in the office, shut the door, and just cry. People were so angry and sad all the time. Depression and anxiety are an epidemic within BioWare. I actually cannot count the amount of stress casualties we had on Mass Effect, Andromeda, or Anthem," said another developer in an email.
Mm-hmm.
Stress casualty.
Yeah.
For when making a game. Like,
but
what the
it's
bleep?
Also like, you sometimes when you hear stories like this from current or former employees, you kind of try and take everything with a grain of salt. Just like, oh, they're disgruntled, oh, they're burnt, they've been here for a long time, oh, they're burnt out. But like, you can really see it in the end product in the last 2 games that they've released, in just the state that they've done it from a studio that has typically released some pretty high quality content over the years. To see them in such slapdash, poorly put together, poorly directed fashion, you're like, no, this is probably something that has some real weight to it.
Yeah,
that there are these problems. And it was also talking about in the article, like, how the 2 main studios that BioWare runs in, I think, Canada and then in Texas, were at constant odds with each other. There was a lot of fighting and bickering over who was doing what, and like, there was never any consensus on what was happening and who was doing it. That really also led into some of these issues as well, beyond just the general stress of trying to put these projects
like,
together.
I think just from it's like, developers work hard in games, and I feel like the failure of management and leadership across the board is apparent here, especially, and I kind of relating to what I was saying earlier. I think like what you were saying, Josh, is like, we have to take it with a grain of salt with what people say on accounts like this, but when but like, take what I had said about something called stress casualties, and then think about that with this quote. "Within the studio, there's a term called BioWare magic. It's a belief that no matter how rough a game's production might be, things will always come together in the final months. The game will always coalesce. It happened on the Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age, and Origins and Inquisition. Veteran BioWare developers like to refer to production as a hockey stick. It's flat for a while, then suddenly jolts upward. Even when a project feels like a complete disaster, there's always a belief with enough hard work, it'll all come together." And it's
lofty.
Just combining that with like widespread stress and like just anger and frustration. It's hard to
what a way to try and absolve upper management and direction of any real responsibility, and just saying, like, guys, it's fine. It always is like this. It always just comes together in the last bit. Don't worry, it's gonna happen. Like, way to really punt any responsibility off of yourself and just be like, no, we got this. I know this seems like a really, really poorly directed project, and we have no idea what we're doing, but like, it all just works out in the end. So just keep doing what you're doing, because it'll all work out.
So that's poor leadership. Casey Hudson leaving, like, midway through development didn't help anything, unfortunately. And I understand, man's got to do what a man's got to do, woman's got to do what a woman's got to do, and he's like, I'm just gonna leave for a bit. going to peace out for a bit. You guys seem like you have it. They did not. They did not have it. You miscalculated that. And then he came back. And then he helped it to release in the state that it's in now. You know what's beautiful about this expose? How they're talking about how the flight model had been in the game, then out the game, then it was back in.
That literally blew my mind.
That is so telling of the misdirection of this game.
Like, because with how, like, because in a lot of the preview stuff for Anthem, like, that was the thing. Like, that's what made people like, oh, whoa, this is like, it's kind of cool how you traverse the environment like that. Like,
are we gonna get Iron Man like the game? Like, is this what we're getting?
Like, I can't even imagine Anthem with it's crazy, like, just how back and forth they were on it, like, because that's, I mean, it's just like that was like the one thing, like.
Anthem's boring
like,
enough
if you
is.
exactly, if you
taking out its almost
exactly
its only,
like
almost unique thing.
Yeah, like that. It's crazy, like how like unsure the team was about like something, like literally one of the only interesting things about like just my time with the game was just like, oh, flying is kind of cool. Like, it's just that blows my mind.
That
and like everything you read, and then like everything about this like kind of keeps going further and further, and like, and this is kind of a great kind of time to maybe go into like talk about how specifically like they were using like their difficulties with like specifically like the Frostbite engine, which I saw some people say like, you know, EA didn't force them to use the engine, but like that's naive. Like, when your boss tells you like, well, it's like how football teams were like, oh, hey, we're gonna have an optional weightlift or an optional practice. Like, you know, it's not really optional.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what like the engine choice feels like, and just kind of further in notes in the piece, just talking about how this was such like.
Are you talking about Frostbite specifically?
Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, that's EA's decision. They don't want to pay Epic to use the Unreal Engine, which is like the biggest game in town, and that's a shame because I don't know, a bunch of Dragon Age games and all of the Mass Effect games except for the one that sucks were all released on Epic's Unreal Engine. Maybe it's okay to cut Epic a deal. Maybe give them 25%. It's all right, because Frostbite's meant for first-person shooters. Stop trying to use it for everything else. It doesn't work. It clearly doesn't work. I don't know what it'll take for EA to just admit that. I don't know.
Like, just some kind of fun technical details here. Like, many of the features those developers had taken for granted in previous engines, like a saved load system, a third-person camera, just didn't exist in Frostbite. So they had to build all of that from the ground up.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh! I cannot imagine. Oh,
and like, and then you talk, and then like going through it, it's like they're having problems with this in-house engine, with all the stuff that they had to like hack around, and then they like sent, and just like in the pecking order, they're like an RPG studio, but like because like FIFA is on Frostbite. When the FIFA teams have a Frostbite issue, like all the Frostbite like internal tech support goes to them first because they're the bigger deal than this RPG, and so they're just like, just so many like compounding things that just like, it starts off small, you can't fix it, you don't get the support to fix it, and then like as they kind of get closer to the release date here, they're talking like the mechanics and systems of the game itself. They're like, how do we know how can we like test how long our game is, or if it's too long or too short, if like the missions, if it's not even done yet. It's like the game's out in a year and we have like one working mission.
Yeah, I just read about that part like earlier today, where it's like a 40, 60, 80 hour game but none of the game is even like a QA state, so they don't know how it's going to play out. They don't know what the loot drops are going to be like or a balance. That's terrifying. I can't imagine the type of stress. And then while you're building out the game and you're a year out and you're still building tool sets for the game just to make the game, oh, that sounds like hell. Oh, that sounds like because you can't work. You can't do anything. You're like, I can't work until this tool set so I can do my job exists. That is horrifying.
It's like they're like putting down railroad track in front of a train that they're on.
That's exactly
but they
what that's
also
like.
but you have to like invent a hammer and nails,
and you still have to get to the station next week.
But you still have to, so it's not like you're just putting it on the track. You have to invent the hammer, nails, metal. Like, it's crazy how much like how all this they're dealing with. And just like again, like this is like truly a monstrous piece, but this is another really interesting thing. It's like that I thought, because like it's like in me talking about this game, it's impossible to not compare it to Destiny. Just because on the surface they have a lot of some characteristics. Quote, because leadership didn't want to discuss Destiny, that developer added, they found it hard to learn from what Bungie's loot shooter did well. We need to be looking at games like Destiny because they're the market leaders, the developer said. They're the guys who have been doing these things best and for the longest time. As an example, the developer brought up the unique feel of Destiny's large variety of guns, something Anthem seems to be lacking, in large part because it was built by a bunch of people who, you know, make RPGs, and they talked about how
fantasy RPGs specifically.
Yeah, and they didn't really like. They were like leadership was like had like an ego and didn't want them to really kind of learn from that, and that was like absolutely like one of my big problems with Anthem was just like. Compared to Destiny, like the gunplay just doesn't like. Not only does like the core feel of the gunplay not feel great, but like the weapons are just like shotgun +1, shotgun +4. It's not like a really transformative. It doesn't like there's like the perks or like exotic weapons don't really change in that kind of transformative way. But like, I kind of want to talk about BioWare's reply to this, because that's also really interesting.
Yeah.
But are there any kind of anecdotes you guys specifically want to pull from this?
My favorite is the most disappointing from working in the industry, and I get where they're coming from with this one. And they said, reading the reviews is like reading a laundry list of complaints we brought up to senior leadership when there was still time. And it's like, I feel that. That hurts. When you're seeing the 55 on Metacritic and the people are just complaining about the things that you know when the game was in dev was wrong, and people said no, don't fix it, it'll be fine, and you can't do the whole like told you so moment because it's too late. It's way too late, and no one wins. It's like That burns me a little bit. I kind of have a lot more respect with this expose, as it were, because you're dealing with the hardships from Jump Street that they're having to deal with, and you're seeing like, yes, as most people predicted, it was a degradation of leadership, or just like a lack of talent in certain areas, or just a lack of ability. Like, obviously, if you're changing the name of the game from Beyond to Anthem with a year and a half left to go, and you're having to change the entire story, which BioWare games are known for their story, around based on that title drop, then yeah, it's probably a really, really frustrating office and experience to be in. So I get it. And one last one. This one. There was no escaping EA's fiscal targets. Let that sentence speak to most everything wrong with the game. Like, that one right there. That's it. That's all I gotta say. I do want to hear from Josh.
Any final anecdotes from the piece itself?
No, I don't think I have anything else that I want to pick out that hasn't already been. It just reading that, the more and more I read it, the more anecdotes I see, the more everything just makes sense, and the more I just go, yeah, that sounds about you. Everything that they say shows in the final product, and
yes,
it's disappointing, and the studio sounds in such dysfunction that I just don't foresee the Destiny style make good of, we're listening to all this and we're going to actually act on it and make this from one of the most disappointing games to one of the best games. Like, I don't think we're going to see that.
Cuz cuz that's a great point, cuz Destiny, I said this before, even when it launched in I jumped in on the Taken King, but reports I heard from people before is that it was definitely short on stuff, and definitely the systems around it were not great and not well designed, but the core gameplay and experience, there was really something special there, and they really nailed that. But it sounds but with Anthem, they don't have that really core kind of thing to latch onto and try and as their rock to build from. And just as a one last thing before I get to the reply here from BioWare, this whole thing just kind of it's like a project management kind of anecdote I've heard Sarah sometimes talk about. It kind of feels like BioWare's leadership and EA's leadership. They think that 9 women can have a baby in 1 month.
I love that phrase.
That's just stuff just 1 per month. That's how it goes. And it's just,
this is clearly a simple math problem.
Exactly simple mathematics. And
what you people don't know is you don't know how to optimize. Now you get 9 women in the room. Yeah. You make sure they're all pregnant. I'm listening. And then they have 9 babies. Clear the duh. Freaking idiots. Yeah. They're gonna let me collect my check and my bonus.
Yeah, that's my big fat shareholder bonus.
Stinking bonus.
My dividends.
My dividends.
Oh,
don't you touch my dividends.
But yeah, that's just how it feels with this. That's how it that feels like the philosophical approach to this. But so this somehow the story gets even juicier, because when this article was published yesterday, BioWare basically simultaneously put out a press release.
I think they had to, honestly.
I think Jason sent over a summary of the piece, not the piece itself, but this reply was up basically at the exact same time that his piece went live. Definitely not in a time that you could finish reading that monster of a piece and then write this. And definitely the first part is just kind of a standard, unfair focus on specific team members and leaders who did their best to bring this totally new idea to fans.
To be fair, there's no other looter shooter like it.
Okay.
That's fair.
Schlooters. They're called Schlooters now.
Oh no, we're canceling Schlooters.
Nope, they're Schlooters. Second paragraph, we put a great emphasis on our work culture in studios and talking about how they, want to do a better job of avoiding crunch, and it's not a major topic of feedback in our internal postmortems, which is hilarious to me. Because it's hey, employee, are you happy? You're happy at work, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Just oh yeah, sure. Hilarious. Just so.
Hey, employee, who's
not
completely disposable. You're satisfied at your job? Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Good. You give that 5 out of 10.
Great.
We'll make sure
thank
you're
you.
all nice.
Mr. EA says thank you.
And remember, we do a 10% employee cut every year.
Have some Origin bucks.
Have some more. No! He hit him with the Origin bucks.
But this last paragraph, I kind of want to read verbatim.
Okay.
As a studio and a team, we accept all criticism that will come our way for the games we make, especially from our players. The creative process is often difficult. The struggles and challenges of making video games are very real, but the reward of putting something we created into the hands of our players is amazing. People in this industry put so much passion and energy into making something fun. We don't see the value in tearing down one another or another's work. We don't believe articles that do are making our industry and craft better.
Ooh, could have done without that last sentence.
Our full focus is on our players and continuing to make Anthem everything it can be for our community. Thank you to our fans for your support.
That I was with it until that second to last sentence. That we don't believe articles that do are making our industry and craft better. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna have to disagree. I think the journalist did his job, and that's okay to kind of.
Do you know how you avoid, like, it's just to.
Like, if he's lying, call him a liar. Then you could both have it out in court. But this thing right here doesn't say that Jason Schreier was lying, because he's not.
Yeah, there's that. Seeing this, like, my jaw dropped when I saw that, because I was just like there's there's a serious, like, stress casualty. That's not like that's the term that developer had on the ready. Like, that was like, there needs to be a serious, like, reckoning of, like, how unsustainable the quote BioWare magic as, like, a path to development is. And to just say that, like, he's, like, Jason's trying to get a cheap shot on you is so disrespectful to, like, if I read that and if I was quoted in this article and I saw that that's what, like, the response was, I would be pissed.
Yeah. Are you a fan of? Are you a fan of Twitter ratios? You should go to that.
Love them.
Okay, go to BioWare at Twitter.com, and you can enjoy the ratio that's there.
Ooh, let's take a look.
See, automatically, Mike drops what he's doing. He's like, "Hold on, this takes precedence."
Let's take a look. Ooh, yeah, it's
a good one.
It's not as I've seen some real rough ones. It's not
anything by Howard Schultz is peak.
The comments have not outpaced the faves, but it's quite high. It's definitely getting there. Yeah. But yeah, that's
you know where you won't find terrible Twitter ratios?
Where's that, Josh?
At Unscript_gaming. Go there.
That's a segue.
Ooh.
For some of the hottest content you'll ever find. Interact with us. Talk to us about this issue, because I think we've said all we can, but I think we'd all love to hear what you guys have to think about this.
For
do
sure.
you think we're speaking nonsense, or are we all kind of in agreement that this is crazy? You know where else you can go? You can get a Facebook, like Unscripted Gaming. You can also chat with us there. You can also find us at Unscript Podcast on YouTube. All those places you can interact with us. Tell us about what you think about this. Join the conversation. You can also find us at Google Play Music. You can find us at Apple Podcasts. You can get us in your ears anywhere your podcatchers are.
Leave us a review there, because that is super duper helpful. You can leave a 1-star review or a 5-star review.
I prefer the 5-star review, but, you know, I get it. You might be a little offended because I forgot what the App Store is called, so, like, whatever.
It's called the App Store. That's the name. You said it.
Yeah, well, I forgot it earlier, so.
Okay.
Either way, thank you for listening to Unscripted Gaming. My name is Josh.
My name is Mike.
My name is Ray.
Peace.